Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, we're going through more chapters of Lord of the Rings. Chapter 6, The Old Forest, is where we're gonna just jump into. So I have my notes here, and I'm gonna try not to look down too much, but anyways. Okay, so in the last chapter, it was a conspiracy unmasked. That was chapter 5, and I talked about how I thought it was so awesome that Pippin and Merry were super brave and courageous and like willing to lay down their life for their friend. And again, in the movie, I did not get that. Like, this makes me like them so much more. Just the fact that they have that character trait. And I didn't get that from the movie. Comment below if how you felt about them in the movie. Anyway, they were like my big pet peeve, but whatever. I really like them in the book. So meanwhile, so jumping into chapter 6, the Old Forest. They are leaving Frodo's would-have-been house, and they are going into the Old Forest. So they all take off on ponies, and then my thing is, like, I kept worrying for these ponies in chapter 6. I'm like, how are you gonna, like, this forest is scary. How are you gonna go and take these innocent ponies? Like, what's gonna happen to these ponies? Who's gonna take care of these ponies? How are they gonna eat? Like, what if they get hurt? You know, you've got those black riders, which, by the way, that is how the book calls them. They're either called dark riders or black riders. I don't, like, just in case, I don't want that to sound offensive. They're, you know, it's like, they're sinister looking or whatever. If you've seen the movie, you know. But that's how the book literally calls them. But anyways, so I don't know. Did anyone else, while you were reading the book, were you concerned about the ponies, or was that just me? Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, so they're heading to the East Road, which I don't remember quite where the East Road is supposed to take them. I know this is a long journey, but so Merry says the forest is queer, it's strange. And so this already, again, it has me nervous for these ponies that are going in the forest. And the movie I don't remember them taking ponies into a forest. It's been a while since I've seen the movies. I gotta go back and watch. But yeah, so the trees, Merry says that the trees watch you at night, that they whisper and they can hem in strangers. So this is like a strange forest. I do remember a forest when I watched the movie, but I remember liking the forest. They were like nice. I don't remember. They helped, spoiler alert, they helped fight, but maybe that will come later. I guess I'm assuming it does come later. They do fight or something. Because I remember in the movie being super sad for the forest. But right now, this old forest, maybe it's a different forest. I don't know, but it does not sound like a fun forest to go visit. It sounds very scary. Yeah, so I'm expecting the trees to be all mean to the hobbits as they're going in, and there's stories of a bonfire in the forest. Going deeper, the trees rose taller. My notes here, they rose taller and darker and fuller. So I'm like ready for scary stories, because I read my book at night, like before bed, and so I'm like in bed, my husband's asleep, and I'm all getting scared, like reading about this forest. So it says that the roads kept moving and the forest somehow kept pushing them in the wrong direction. So I'm getting frustrated. I'm getting angry. I'm feeling the anxiousness that these hobbits are feeling, because it's like, why is the forest doing this? Why can't they just get from point A to point B? Why does the forest got to cause these problems, right? So yeah, so essentially they're being led to the heart of the forest, according to my notes here. And it led them in the opposite direction intended, which is to the river Withywindle. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. I think it's Withywindle. Yeah, so everyone, as they're on the way, they begin to fall asleep at the foot of the Great Gray Willow. Okay, so yeah, I guess they're just so overcome. If memory, like, it's been a few days since I read this chapter, but they were like so overcome with tiredness and exhaustion, I guess. I don't know. It's like the willow tree. You know, you think of a sleepy willow tree. It's like something about this tree is like putting them to sleep. So yeah, and the tree, it tries to drown Frodo in a stream or a river while he's washing his feet, because he just feels the need to wash his feet, and the tree like pushes him in. It's trying to drown him. What the hey? Like, why tree? You got to go and kill Frodo. What did Frodo do to you? He's a nice guy. It's like this creepy evil forest. I'm not a fan of the forest at this point. So Mary almost gets eaten by the tree when Sam and Frodo tried to light it on fire. Yeah, because Sam and Frodo were trying to light this tree on fire because it had like somehow swallowed Mary. Yeah, that's how bad this tree is. It's over here trying to straight up drown people. It's trying to eat or something. It's like, and so here they are. They're like, let's burn the tree, and the tree's getting madder. And then like I think Mary's like screaming for them to stop, and so it's this panicky situation. And of course, you know they're going to come out of this, but it's like, how? It's just frustrating. It kind of brought me back to the Hobbit vibes, because I seem to remember like a scary spider web scene from the Hobbit where I was all, how are they going to get out of this pickle? Because you know it's a happy ending, but it's like, how? And I guess this is helping me to understand maybe why the director, because I thought they did a great job with the Lord of the Rings movie, but I've been trying to understand, why did they make Merry and Pippin so annoying? Because again, it's not Merry's fault that he's getting eaten by this willow tree. So I was like, why in the movie did they make me feel like everything was those annoying hobbits' fault? But I guess because like here's a scene where Mary's getting into trouble, so to speak. There's like chaos happening around them. So I guess, I don't know, I'm starting to kind of see where the director was going with that, but whatever. Anyways, so what happens, like Frodo's like running around. I think he goes and looks for help, but Tom Bombadil enters the scene at this point. Tom Bombadil is a character that I have never ever heard of until I read the book. And I guess it's only the hardcore fans who know about Tom. He's funny looking. He has yellow boots. He's got a tall hat with a blue feather. And he sings practically the whole time when you meet him at first. And my husband said that a lot of people think Tom Bombadil is annoying. I don't get that at all. I kind of like him. He's yeah, so he meets Frodo, and what he does to help save Merry. Yeah, so it's like this weird guy who's like hopping around the forest, essentially, is who Tom Bombadil is. And he's like, oh, I'll go help you save your friend because Frodo needs help. And he starts whispering some kind of funky song. Oh, and I guess it's both Pippin and Merry who are in trouble from this tree at this point. So he goes and he whispers something to that old willow tree, old gray willow, and after he rescues, yeah, so that this essentially frees the Merry and Pippin hobbits, and then he's like, oh, you guys have to come eat dinner at my house, and just keep up with me or something like that. So he says that his house is somewhere in the old forest. So Tom Bombadil's like this hermit guy. Is in my mind, I'm thinking he's this hermit guy who lives in the forest, and he's like, you don't know what to make of him at first because he runs off ahead of them, and that's really shady to me. I was like, how are you gonna go and like run off and be like, follow me, and you're not like helping? Like, I don't know, it felt to me like by luck they happened to follow him to his house, but he ran off all ahead. Like he wasn't trying to wait for everybody, like Merry and Pippin and all them and their ponies. So that is how the Old Forest chapter ends. Being able to read about the Old Forest helps me to be so happy that I've read the book, because, as you know, the books, at least for me, in my world, books tend to be better than movies, and I feel like this is something that the movie left out, and it's more information about the Tolkien or the Middle-earth world, and it makes the story more complete and more fun for me. to know more. And so now I'm left at the end of this chapter wanting to know, who is Tom Bombadil? Like, what is this about? Why did the movie leave him out? Are the questions that I have at this point. Tom Bombadil straight up saved Merry and Pippin's life. Like, how are you going to leave him out of the movie? Anyways. Okay, so diving into chapter 7, it is called In the House of Tom Bombadil. So finally you get to find out about Tom Bombadil. So I'm going to read along with my notes here. So first you meet Goldberry, the daughter of the river, is how she's described. So I have to be honest, when I watched the Lord of the Rings films, what mattered the most to me, mind you, I was in my early 20s and I had never read the book or anything, but at that time, Arwen and Aragorn's love story for me was everything. Like, that was what the movie was about for me. It wasn't so much about Frodo delivering this ring to get rid of it as much as it was all about Aragorn and Aragorn and Arwen. It's been so long. But that's all I cared about in my early 20s. I am always looking for a good love story in a movie, and I guess the director knew that, so that people look for that kind of thing. So this is the first time I see like Frodo take notice of a girl, because in the film he doesn't notice anybody. And I was always like, why is it that Sam got somebody? Why not Frodo? Why didn't he fall in love? Because I'm all about the love stories, I guess. And so finally with Tom Bombadil, not that anything's going on, but you meet Goldberry, who is like this queen elf or something. But Frodo, let me read you. It says in chapter 7 here, the hobbits looked at her in wonder, and she looked at each of them and smiled. Fair Lady Goldberry, said Frodo at last, feeling his heart moved with a joy that he did not understand. It makes me wonder, does Frodo have like the feelings, the butterfly feelings for her? I don't know. It says he stood as he had at times stood, enchanted by fair elven voices, but the spell that was now laid upon him was different. Less keen and lofty was the delight, but deeper and nearer to mortal heart. Marvelous and yet not strange. Fair Lady Goldberry, he said again, now the joy that was hidden in the songs we heard is made plain to me. And then he goes, I don't know if she's singing or he's singing, they have some little song. And so it's Frodo singing to her, fair river daughter, oh, springtime and summertime and spring again after. Suddenly he stopped and stammered, overcome with surprise to hear himself saying such things, but Goldberry laughed. So I'm like, is Frodo crushing on Goldberry? Like, what's going on here? Why is he so overcome with her? I mean, Frodo has met elves before. He's seen them. He didn't act like this with any of them. Why with Goldberry? I mean, it's Tom Bombadil's wife. I don't think he's hitting on her or anything like that. It's not like that. I guess he's just like super enchanted and delighted with her. And you see it again and again. You see his feelings towards her. And then like there's another part where Frodo's like, fair lady, said Frodo again after a while, tell me if my asking does not seem foolish, but who is Tom Bombadil? And so she explains, so I guess it's like her husband, Goldberry's married to Tom Bombadil, and anyway, so she explains Tom Bombadil, but he called her fair lady. I guess that's not really, I don't know. He thinks she's attractive or pretty or whatever. And I'll focus in on it some more a little later as we go on when they're leaving the house. But that's just something that stood out to me because, again, I am always looking for the love story in a story because, I don't know, hopeless romantic, I don't know. Oh yeah, so in my notes, again, she's setting the table and she explains that Tom is a master of the old forest. So I guess Tom's a master of the old forest. Tom calls her his pretty lady, and they all ate and rested. but not without waking up in the night at noises because Tom had told them to ignore anything scary. So yeah, so they're pretty much refreshing themselves from all of the crazy madness that they went through from that day at the forest, at the old forest. And they're hearing funky things outside. Like, it's a question, is it the Black Riders? I don't know. The ponies are outside, and Tom, I was so appreciative of Tom Bombadil because he was feeding and taking care of those ponies. Because again, at the beginning of the last chapter, I was so worried for these ponies, but like Tom is totally taking care of the ponies, and they're outside where you hear all these funky noises going on. So I did get a little bit worried for these ponies outside because Frodo's hearing noises. So it's like, are Black Riders assaulting the ponies? I don't know. But the ponies are fine, I guess. So the book goes through everyone's nightmares, like Merry and Pippin and Sam and Frodo. Everybody has nightmares at Tom Bombadil's house. There's like one of a Black Rider drown. There's one of somebody drowning. There's one of the tree eating somebody. Sam did sleep through it. He didn't have any nightmares, but everybody else like was having nightmares. I guess Frodo must have had the nightmare that he drowned. The next morning after breakfast, it rains, thanks to Goldberry, and they decided not to travel in the rain, and instead Tom told fun stories. Sometimes he was like talking to himself or about himself. I'm not quite sure what I wrote there in my notes, but I did kind of find that strange. Why did Goldberry make it rain? Were they trying to delay Frodo? It was just kind of weird to me. From Tom Bombadil, while he's talking, I'm writing here in my notes, the hobbits learned about Old Man Willow, the hearts of the trees, their dark and strange thoughts, the ancientness of the trees are some of the things that Tom is filling in the hobbits about. And Tom talked for what felt like weeks, and as if he had cast a spell on them, and he did wine and dine them, and they realized he was chums with Farmer Maggot, which, remember, Farmer Maggot was from earlier. They had eaten dinner with Farmer Maggot, and Farmer Maggot was not so afraid of the Black Riders. The way they portrayed him for the split second in the film that Farmer Maggot was in the film. Yeah, it's like, I kind of felt like they just did away with Tom Bombadil and Farmer Maggot. But they're interesting. It's just, I guess the movie couldn't be 12 hours long. They had to cut something. As a result of Tom being friends with Farmer Maggot, he knows that Frodo is on the run, and maybe even why. Yeah, yes, he does, because Tom put the ring on, which scared Frodo. And Tom gave it back right away, but to be safe, Frodo put it on, and sure enough, it was the ring, because I guess he made himself invisible. He wanted to make sure it was the exact same ring. And I was scared too. I was like, Tom, what are you doing? That is so, like, kind of crappy of you for putting on that. Like, why were you messing with Frodo? Why did you put on the ring? Why were you casting him under a spell and like Goldberry's over there making it rain? You're like keeping Frodo in your house, talking. I guess it was nice that he told them all those ancient stories about the forest, because it's nice to be knowledgeable and enlightened about the land and everything. I assume that this knowledge will come in handy later, but I was not happy with Tom Bombadil messing or touching Frodo and his ring. You know how important it is that he destroy this ring. Why are you even messing around? So whatever. It at least he didn't take it, and he was taking care of the ponies. He saved Merry and Pippin, and he was feeding them and housing them and keeping them safe or whatever. So I forgave Tom Bombadil, but I was really disturbed by that scene. Maybe that's why people get annoyed with Tom Bombadil. I don't know. So that is how that chapter ends. So let's get into chapter 8, Fog on the Barrow Downs. I'm going to be honest with you. I read this whole chapter, Fog on the Barrow Downs, without quite knowing what Barrow Downs are. I don't know. I assume Barrow Barrow Downs are like some kind of hill or dune, but I have this trusty little J.R.R. Tolkien handbook, A Concise Guide to His Life, Writings, and World of Middle Earth. So I am just gonna go look it up and try to better understand these Barrow Downs. So it's like a dictionary or a thesaurus. Aha, here we are, Barrow Downs. In The Lord of the Rings, the downs east of the Old Forest get their name from the Great Barrows, or the stone-chambered burial mounds. Yes, that is what they were talking about. I knew it was some kind of chamber in the earth, but yeah, so it says they dated back to the ancient days before men had crossed to arid Lewin, the Blue Mountains, into Beleriand. Earlier in the Third Age, evil spirits from Angmar, the Barrow Wights, had possessed the burial mounds, making the region an area of dread, which is, yes, that is what this place is. So I needed to define the Barrow Mounds, because even though I had read the whole chapter, I still wasn't quite sure what are the Barrow Mounds, but I have the trusty Tolkien handbook to explain things to me. So the hobbits awoke and ate, and they set off, but not without saying goodbye to Goldberry, which brings me back to my little conspiracy theory that Frodo has a crush on Goldberry. So as I begin reading chapter 8 here, it says that as they were leaving, they had just dismounted to lead their ponies up the last steep slope, when suddenly Frodo stopped. "Goldberry!" he cried, "my fair lady, clad all in silver green. We have never said farewell to her, nor seen her since the evening." He was so distressed that he turned back, but at that moment a clear call came rippling down, and there on the hill brow she stood beckoning to them. Her hair was flying loose, and it caught the sun, and it shone and shimmered. A light like the glint of water on dewy glass flashed from under her feet as she danced. So it's kind of like, how can he not be enchanted with her? I mean, she has like glass as she's dancing. What? Like glass at her feet. She's like shimmering and shining. But it's like the fact that he was so upset about it that he had forgotten to say goodbye to her. Like, why couldn't he just be like, "Oh, we didn't say bye. Okay. Oh, well, too bad. Like, let's just keep riding." No, it's like, "Oh, no." It seemed like they made such a do about it. So it just says, Goldberry spoke to them and recalled their eyes and thoughts. "Speed now, fair guest," she said, "and hold to your purpose." Yeah, so she's being really encouraging. And to Frodo she said, "Farewell, elf friend, it was a merry meeting." But Frodo found no words to answer, and he bowed low and mounted his pony and followed by his friends. And so they're like riding off, and then it says, turning back when they reached the bottom of the green hollow, they saw Goldberry, now small and slender like a sunlit flower against the sky. She was standing still watching them, and her hands were stretched out towards them. And as they looked, she gave a clear call, and lifting up her hand, she turned and vanished behind the hill. So that is, I don't know, is that the last we see of Goldberry? I don't know. But I don't know. She certainly made an impression on Frodo. Like, the other hobbits didn't really remember her, or that they hadn't said goodbye to her, but it was Frodo who was like, "No, we never said goodbye to her." So that's where I get my little conspiracy theory from. Maybe I'll read more about her in the book. Like, I don't know, does Frodo meet anybody? And the book talks about it, but the movie cuts it out. I don't know. I guess I just have to keep reading to find out. So they rode for a while, and they ended up resting on top of a hill and eating lunch and taking a long nap, that they had never meant to take, the book says. And the sun set into a deep fog, and they were on it was hard to explain. It was like an island that was surrounded by fog, and then like the fog was coming on top of them or something, and it was like the stone was like a pillar holding up the fog. He gets really descriptive about this foggy area. But they mounted their ponies and moved on, and eventually Frodo got separated, and he came to this some place that scared his pony, which bucked him and then it like bolted. And he thought he heard his friends calling for help. So it's like really freaky at this point. You're like, what is going on? Why? What is with this drama? Why can't they just get to the East Road or the place they're trying to get to? That forest kept them for days. You know, they were under that spell by Tom Bombadil. But whatever. So Frodo's captured by a Barrow wight, and he realized his friends were caught nearby, dressed, and they were dressed in white. And they had like riches around them and like swords on their necks. Um, yeah, it was really strange. There was like some kind of funky ceremony going on, and there was some incantation that was being said over them. And then there was like a random arm that was gonna go kill Sam, but Frodo somehow got free from where he was, and he has some small sword and he cuts off the hand. And so that was really freaky. But it was at this time when Frodo cuts off that hand from that random funky arm that he recalled this rhyme that Tom Bombadil had told him to say in case he ever needed help. It was like, ho Tom Bombadil, by water, wood, and hill, by reed and willow, some funky rhyme. And then at that point, it's like calling a superhero. Tom Bombadil comes bounding in, singing his song, "Get out, you old why," casting it out. He's like, "Leave your barrow empty." And there was some cry, part which was like part of the inner chamber fell with a crash. Like it was legit. It sounded like casting out a demon, essentially, is what it kind of sounded like. And Tom and Frodo took the crew out of the barrow, and Tom woke them up, like Sam and the other hobbits, because they were like in a deep sleep or something. And they were really upset when they woke up because their clothes were gone. But Tom was like, "Be thankful you're alive. You found yourselves again out of deep water." But they were like so upset about their clothes. It's like ignorance is bliss kind of thing. Had they been awake to see all the scary, funky things, like an arm crawling around and the fact that they were going to get killed and the weird incantation and all that, you know, they would be happy the way Tom Bombadil had told them to be. And then Tom got them all their ponies, and he decides he's going to ride to set them on the East Road, and he's going to like stay with them. And so they eat breakfast with Tom because I guess they had spent the night in that Barrow Down place or whatever. And they were eating breakfast, and they were laying down the treasure from the day before, like on top of some hill or on top of some mound, so that anyone who found the treasures could take from it. And Tom took a brooch set for Goldberry, and he gave each of the hobbits like a dagger, like it was like a long leaf dagger. And it was kind of neat because Tom tells them the history of the dagger and its shape. And then he leads them to the road, and he sings most of the way, so you get to read some of the songs. And he told them to sleep at the Prancing Pony, which I remember the Prancing Pony in the film, but I feel like it was at the Prancing Pony that they met the whole crew that they were gonna travel with, like Aragorn, whatever. They meet everybody in the film, like aside from the hobbits that they're gonna travel with, like the other dwarves. But I don't know. We'll see what the book says, because the movie had completely cut out all of these things. This whole Barrow Downs scene, fog on the Barrow Downs, Tom Bombadil, I would not have known who he was. So I guess the most important thing to know about this topic is that Tom Bombadil is a good character, essentially, even though he was tempted by the ring in the way that Gandalf was a little bit. Well, I don't know if Gandalf really was all that tempted by the ring. They kind of make it seem, it was Tom Bombadil's chance to get tested, but you realize that to his core he's good and he wants to help, and he does. He helps save Merry and Pippin and Sam again, and yeah, I don't really have a lot to say about that chapter except that it was exciting. And I guess I do see why it was cut from the film. I don't know. Give me your thoughts and feelings. Did you feel like it should not have been cut, that they should have included it? Was it super scary for you when you read it? It was it was kind of scary for me, but once Frodo called out for Tom Bombadil, and I just knew it was going to be all right. I guess you kind of get that feeling about Tom Bombadil. So, anyways, so that's all I have to say for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to my channel if you want to see more, if you want to follow my journey with reading Lord of the Rings. And like this video if you liked it, share it if you think somebody else might get something out of it. And I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend and a great week if you're starting your week whenever you're watching this. And I hope to see you guys very soon. Bye bye.